Welcome, seekers of truth beneath the glitter, to your sanctuary of candor and compassion, Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Today we step behind the velvet curtain and into the fragile center of a man so admired that even his guardrails are trembling. This is not a story about trophies, premieres, or choreographed smiles. This is about vulnerability so raw that those who once shielded him now whisper in fear. Barış Baktaş, the face that made millions believe, finds himself staggering through a night so heavy that even seasoned insiders no longer know where dawn might be. What's unraveling off camera? What storm could drive a meticulous professional toward an emotional precipice that threatens not just a role, but the roots of his career? Before we descend, we ask for a simple act of solidarity. Subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, hit the bell so you don't miss a beat, and, if you value storytelling that tries to understand rather than accuse, press the join button with intent. Becoming an official member of Turkish Spotlight Secrets is how you fuel our pledge to reveal the souls behind your favorite personas. In recent weeks, an ominous haze has gathered around the once unshakable silhouette of Barış Baktaş. Away from red carpets and choreographed photo calls, a private struggle has begun to show in the smallest cracks, a silence where there used to be a quip, a detour where there once was triumph. The portrait emerging is uncomfortable and human, a disarming frailty that tests the very scaffolding of his personal life, and with it, every professional promise tied to his name. The tension spiked when his long-trusted manager was spotted exiting an emergency meeting with leaders of a major production house. Usually a master of composure, he looked as if the ground had shifted. His jaw was set, his hands trembled, and his eyes, those of a fixer, carried alarm he couldn't conceal. He thought no one was listening when he let a few sentences escape near a technician with a live mic. He said, nearly breathless, "He's not himself. I've never seen him this shattered. Barış is walking through a private fire and shuts every door when we knock. Scenes, interviews, obligations, he gets through minutes of them and then seals himself inside the dressing room. We're reaching a breaking point. The machine can't sustain this." Dear friends of Turkish Spotlight Secrets, imagine keeping a straight face for a world that expects sparkle while your inner voice begs for shelter. Have you ever needed to disappear, even for a moment, to stop the noise and catch your breath? That is the shadow we believe Barış is fighting. Talk to us in the comments, your empathy powers this space. And remember, if you want stories that move with care and honesty, the join button is your way of standing with us and with him. The event that rang alarms across the industry unfolded on the set of his much-discussed new series. The scene was written to be intense, a release through crafted tears. But when the director called cut, the tears didn't obey. They gathered and burst into sobs so unguarded that the room stiffened. The director, concerned more for the man than the moment, stepped in with a calming hand. Barış sank to the floor as if gravity had suddenly doubled. His breaths grew shallow, mind seemingly adrift from the choreography of the day. With a voice splintering under its own weight, he whispered, "This isn't the character. This is bigger than the frame," and the set fell into a hush that felt almost reverent in the face of such pain. If that were all, perhaps the storm would have passed unnoticed. But there was more. A press tour planned for months vanished in a blink. The official line cited "not enough energy to face the audience," a phrase that, in show business, sounds like a white flag you never want to raise. Inside those corridors, friction grew. Advertisers, network heads, campaign teams. They had counted on Barış's magnetism to launch the series into the stratosphere. Suddenly that booster was absent, and the air felt thin. Selin Kaya, who recently shared the stage with him, confided in private that what she saw unsettled her. "He appears far away," she said quietly, "like his gaze is locked on a horizon none of us can see. Sometimes he doesn't hear you until the second time. You start to wonder where his thoughts have gone, and whether they'll be able to find their way back. I'm honestly worried for his spirit." Then came an image neither polished nor staged. Paparazzi lenses found him alone in his car, facing a churning sea, sitting there as time drained away, nearly 2 hours of stillness. His phone came alive a handful of times, he didn't answer. He just stared at the water as if the waves were rewriting something he needed to read. Those photos traveled fast, and with them the notion that he might be confronting a chapter of the heart that refuses to stay in the past. He's been a warrior for as long as I've known him, a source close to production offered with a helpless shake of the head. Always precise, always early, always stacked with preparation. Now it's like the feelings kicked down the doors he kept closed. This stops being about contracts at some point. It becomes a question of his mind, his peace. And that's the part that frightens me. Filming suffered in ways no one predicted. During a crucial late-night sequence, every cue landed, every light hit, every mark aligned, except the one inside him. Without a missed line or a technical hitch, he stalled in the center of the frame and could not move. He raised a hand, voice quivering, and said, "I need air. This is choking me." He set the script aside and simply walked into the corridor. For more than an hour, he vanished from the set's orbit. Crew members later whispered that they found him in the narrow hallway outside the dressing rooms, just standing with his forehead against the cool paint, shoulders shaking in a kind of grief that had no audience and asked for none. The executive producer, pressed by delays and the tick of a budget clock, allowed a sober admission. "Barış is extraordinary. There's no debate on that. But we're in fragile territory. We're doing everything we can to protect him and create a softer landing for the days ahead. What he's carrying isn't light." Now we arrive at the part where rumor and truth blur. Among the whispers, one has grown loud enough to feel undeniable, though no one has confirmed it on the record: a letter. A letter that Yagmar Yakel, the woman whose presence has so often steadied him, whose name is entwined with his in the public imagination, allegedly sent him in recent weeks. No one has released the text, and perhaps no one ever will. But an assistant on set, anxious and anonymous, swore she saw him reading a folded page over and over between takes. He wasn't the same after, she said, eyes glossy just remembering it. He went quiet in a way that felt final. The internet erupted. Fans built theories like webs. Some say it's the collapse that follows an impossible love, the kind that simmers for years and still resists definition. Others strip the romance from it and argue that this is what happens when the engine of fame demands too much from a human soul. Somewhere in the swirl, a user wrote what thousands seem to be feeling: he always met the noise with poise. He always looked ready. Now he looks like something broke, and he's trying to gather the pieces without cutting his hands. Then, as if the skies wanted to test every beating heart in that studio, came a visit no one anticipated. During a lull in filming, Yagmar Yakel appeared at the edge of the lot. Long coat, dark glasses, quiet steps, the camouflage of someone who doesn't want to turn a private moment into a circus. But nothing escapes the echo chamber of a set. People noticed. She and Barış slipped into his dressing room and closed the door. 30 minutes passed, then a few more. When she emerged, her eyes were red and fixed on the ground. He did not come out for the rest of the day. What happened in those minutes? A goodbye? A truth finally spoken? A promise made, or broken? No one knows. But a costume designer nearby swears the air seemed charged, the way the air hums before rain. Something shifted in there, she said. We all felt it. Whatever it was heavy and real. His agency began drawing lines in pencil across plans that once felt permanent. Some ad campaigns slid into pause. An international film conversation, once bright, began to dim. Inside voices talked less about premiere dates and more about rest. He needs to step away, take the time, then return on his own terms, one person close to those meetings shared. But the industry clock is a merciless beat. It keeps ticking, and that is the part we can't control. Meanwhile, a flood of love keeps rising beneath his older posts and recent silence alike. Your well-being first, we can wait, you're a person before a headline. Comment after comment arcs toward him like small candles in a long night. Engin Akurek and Tuba Bayakustan, always careful with their footprints, left quiet signals of support, the kind of small gestures that speak volumes in a business where everyone knows the cost of being exposed. Barış himself offered only one image to the world across these days, a sunset burning gold over water, posted to his stories with a few restrained words. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. It felt like a coded handshake, an acknowledgement that he hears us, that he is hurting, that he needs the gift of unhurried time. And so we stand here, close enough to feel the tremor but too far to hold him steady. The future of Barış Baktaş is cloaked in fog for now, not because he's lost his talent, but because he's finally meeting himself without armor. As for Yagmar Yakel, her presence, both whispered and witnessed, has become the thread every theory tries to follow. Does her letter hold the key? Did that quiet meeting anchor him or unmoor him? We don't know, and in a way, perhaps we shouldn't. Sometimes what matters is simply that two people tried to speak honestly in a place where truth is often the last guest invited. Tell us, devoted friends of Turkish Spotlight Secrets, what do you feel in the space between their words? Do you believe Yagmar's visit explains the spiral, or is it just one beat in a larger rhythm of pressure and expectation? Add your voice below, it matters more than you think. If the tenderness in this telling resonated with you, like the video and share it so it reaches those who need to hear it said gently. And if you want to stand with us as we continue to navigate these delicate stories with care, press join now. Your support is our backbone. Thank you for being here with open hearts. Until we meet again, we hold hope for softer days and for the return of a man who once made the world ache with a glance. And who, after a season of healing, might do it again, this time from a place of peace.